All right, are we good? Are we live? I think we are. Hello all and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat Live. You join us for yet more Women's Champions League knockout playoff round action. We're still in the first legs, but we're on to two very interesting fixtures tonight. We start with the only game of this round that we didn't see in the league phase, and that is Wolfsburg taking on Juventus. For that reason, Harry, should be the most difficult tie to predict out of the four.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't seen it for a couple of years now since the 22-23 group stage, so it should be a very interesting game to see where both sides lie about now, but both teams enjoyed a very decent league phase. Both sides, I think, were impressive in certain games, but also struggled in others. So it's really going to depend on what version of each team we get tonight, but if they both play at the best of their abilities, then we're going to be in for a bit of a cracker of a knockout tie. I think that Wolfsburg, of course, they've got the pedigree. They're the two-time champions, but it's a very different side to the side that won those trophies way back when. Juventus starting to put something together in the Champions League after a few years of disappointment. So yeah, I think this is going to be probably the closest knockout tie out of the four games.
I think most evenly matched, most likely. Juventus were the surprise package of the league phase. Their performances had them in the top four for most of the first part of this tournament, but they couldn't really capitalise, and as they played some more difficult games towards the end of the league phase, they dropped some points and ended up just outside of it. Actually come into this game, though, still the seeded team. How much of an impact does that have? Obviously, Wolfsburg playing this first game at home, but then they've got to travel for the second leg. How big an advantage is that for Juve?
Yeah, it's big for them. I think that we always say that in these tighter affairs that having that home advantage is crucial, and you've got to use it while it counts, and Wolfsburg will try and do that tonight. But for Juventus, having that advantage in the second leg is going to be helpful, because they'll turn up at home knowing the job at hand, whether they need to consolidate, whether they need to turn around an aggregate deficit. So yeah, it's definitely beneficial for Juventus, and it already means that before a ball's been kicked, Wolfsburg go into this two-legged tie on the back foot a little bit. It's important that they back it up tonight and make sure they get a positive result.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start with the lineups then. We're going to begin with the Wolfsburg team, as they are the home side for this early kickoff. A 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 for Wolfsburg this evening. In goal, it is Johannes. A back four of Bielda, Dijkstra, Wedemeyer and Linda. Then a midfield pivot of Minga alongside Pedemors, with Pop the slightly more advanced of the three. And then on one wing, Svenja Huth, on the other, Enderman. And leading the line, it's Lynette Berenstein. So a bit of a rotated team for Wolfsburg, with a few key players not available, most notably Levels. Changes in the back line. Wedemeyer, who's played a lot at right back, looks like she'll start at centre half this evening. How big an impact will those rotations have?
Yeah, it'll hurt a little bit, especially in those defensive areas. I think that the main thing for Wolfsburg is that spine and that front six, and that front seven has stayed the same, and that's important. I think that yes, those defensive changes we've seen that Juventus look to capitalise on, and potentially if it is if compared to the backlines we've seen starting the Champions League, it is a little bit different. But I think on the whole, it's a pretty similar Wolfsburg side to what we expect. As I say, the front four looks very, very strong. The pivot of Pedemors and Minga has been incredible in the Champions League phase, both of them getting in goals, but we know their defensive contribution as well. So I think on the whole, it's a very, very good Wolfsburg side. Hopefully those defensive omissions won't hurt them too much, but definitely going forwards, they look as dangerous as ever.
Yeah, as for the other interesting one, Kessie Bussi, bench this evening, has been incredible domestically, struggled a little bit on the Champions League stage. Is it the right decision to go without her from the off tonight and start Enderman instead?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that Bussi, as you say, has looked really good in the Frauen Bundesliga, but we haven't seen that form translate onto the European stage, and I don't necessarily mind that balance. Keep her playing in the games where she's performing, and in the Champions League where she's not had the greatest time of it, don't play her. It makes sense. Of course, she's a brilliant player. She could come off the bench tonight and have a big impact. So yeah, I think it's the right decision. She's not adjusted, or hasn't really been had an impact in the Champions League. So understandably doesn't start. And Enderman has had has had some decent performances in there. So a very adequate player. Yeah, I think it's the right decision.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, let's get to the visitors then. Juventus, a 3-5-2 tonight for the Bianconere. In goal, it is De Jong, a back three of Lenzini, Kullberg, and Harvaken. Then at wing backs, Bonansea and Carbonell, with a midfield three of Valti, Stolengodo, and Abby Brighton. And then a front line of Amelie Vangsgaard and Anna Capeta. So a lot of big omissions from this Juventus team, but bringing into the side the lonely Anna Capeta, dropping out the likes of Girelli and Bakari, who are really important in the group stage. Is that the right call from Kanzi in a game like this?
It's bold. I have to say it's bold, but as you say, missing a mix of missing players through injury and problems and dropping players, it creates quite a bit of an interesting Juventus team. Of course, it is still very, very good. And again, central areas, I think defensively, the back three is pretty much what they'd like to have Salvi available, I'm sure. But, apart from that, it's pretty solid. The pivot remains solid. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of players missing from what we saw in the league phase. And I don't think they did too much wrong in the league phase. So to see that many changes, of course, some of them are forced, but others aren't. So yeah, I think that's an interesting call. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure at that one. I think that no matter what's happened in between that time, you should be backing the 11 or playing close to the 11s that got the job done in the Champions League phase. So the fact we're seeing quite a few changes tonight is certainly a little bit questionable, I'd say.
Well, to be fair, amongst the substitutes tonight for Juventus, Tatiana Pinto, Eva Schatzer, you've also got Bakari, Girelli and Cambiaghi all in there. So they had a lot of those options available, but a slightly rotated midfield, a slightly rotated front line. Is it trying to match up against their opponents? Are they looking for a little bit more height in that front line, perhaps a little bit more energy than trying to dictate this game? Are they setting up in a way to hurt Wolfsburg? I think could be the only takeaway really from what is, I would say, on paper at least, a weaker side.
Yeah, I think that that has to be the best way to go about it. And then when you consider, from that angle, it kind of makes sense a little bit in these knockout ties. You've got 180 minutes to beat the side you're facing. So why not set up in a way that's going to try and limit them and halt them from doing anything? But yeah, it will be interesting to see how that plays out. I think that is Juventus a little bit accepting that they expect Wolfsburg to be the better side, have more of the ball, dictate the play more, and then it's up to Juventus to react to that and to try to set up in a way to stop Wolfsburg rather than allowing themselves to play their best football. It's one way to go out a knockout tie. I don't necessarily mind it when you are probably the underdog going into it, but the quality, the experience on that Juventus bench is something that I feel they could be missing a little bit tonight.
Yeah, potentially so, but they have got them on the bench. They've got those options to bring into the game should it need it. Would expect Juventus to try and be the more defensive of the two sides today. They've got to deal with the threat of Wolfsburg first, and then potentially look to hit on the counter. And I think that is what they're going for tonight. Amelie Vangsgaard and Anna Capeta will be that threat in behind the midfield. There's a lot of energy in there. But yeah, it will be interesting to see whether that's the right decision or whether backing the players who perform for them in the league phase would have been a better option. But we'll see. I think the other thing they've got tonight is that they can sort of go for the game a little bit, knowing that they can make up for it in the home leg. But they also won't want to put themselves in a position where that home leg becomes a really difficult one to put off any kind of result.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that last night between Paris FC and Real Madrid was a real good example of the benefit of two-legged ties is it allows teams to be more aggressive, especially when you are that home side. In the second leg, we saw Real Madrid turn up last night and they tried to be positive on the front foot. They took risks, they played out, and it did cost them at the start, but eventually it paid off and they won the game. And I think that that's something Juventus can look to do tonight. Take some risks, be aggressive, and if you get caught out and you lose the game 1-0 or you lose by a 1-goal margin, you've got the second leg to pull it back and to turn things around. So they've got a bit of a safety net if Juventus do want to be a bit more aggressive. And of course the same for Wolfsburg, because although they're away in that second leg, it is still 90 minutes of football. So I'm really hoping we see a very similar game to what we saw last night, where both sides are very positive, on the front foot, looking to score goals, looking to make a difference, and playing without that pressure of potentially being knocked out because they've got a whole other 90 minutes next week to make up for any errors.
Yeah, it should make for a fun one. I think this could end up being quite cagey, though. I think Wolfsburg will want to be the side on the front foot, but they'll also, I think they'd back themselves away from home, so I think they'll be much more positive than Juventus, but I do think they'll find it difficult to break Juventus down. As for Juventus, getting through this game 0-0 is a fantastic result. So I think they'll probably look to set up to get that kind of result, set up to play in a way that can get them to, if they don't concede tonight, Juventus, they're in a fantastic spot going into the second leg. So I think that'll be their first aim. If they get a goal, even better. Yeah. But I think that's very much a secondary goal tonight for Juventus. Their main target is just not to concede. Yeah, I think that's the right way to play this. I think this tie is very difficult. I think Wolfsburg are a side with a huge following, with a lot of quality in that squad. And while the league phase didn't go perfectly for them, they're still a team who know what it takes to win at this level of the competition. Juventus haven't really been here before. So it's going to be really important that Juventus can get through this first leg. If they get overwhelmed by Wolfsburg, it's going to make next week incredibly difficult. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what both sides can produce this evening.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that it makes it difficult. If Juventus provide some of the performances we saw in the league phase, it could be a very, very interesting game. But it's that situation. It's the occasion of a Champions League knockout match. Wolfsburg been here and done it before, and Wolfsburg have got all the characteristics of a side who can go deep in knockout competitions. They've got experience, they've got quality, they've got talent. They've got a decent setup. Not the best, but still decent enough. Juventus tonight, it's important they settle down early. There's going to be nerves for sure. Certain players, have played in these kind of games, but others haven't. It's going to be important they get a foot on the ball and just allow themselves to get into the game, because Wolfsburg, they know what to do. They're going to come out, be fast, be aggressive, and look to get onto Juventus early. It's Juventus's job to dig in deep, get into the game, don't fall behind early doors in this tie, and then once they've settled into the game, they can start to make things happen and start to make an impression onto the Wolfsburg side.
Indeed. Kaze, welcome to the stream, says, good evening all. Should be a good game. Absolutely, it should. Let's begin with our lineup, with our scoreline predictions. Then, if you're watching along to the live show, get involved in the live chat. Let us know your scoreline predictions. We can already see the poll in chat. 57% going the way of Wolfsburg, 40% Juventus, and then 3% going for a draw. So keep voting in that, but also let us know your scoreline prediction. We're going to start in the studio, though, and we'll start with yourself, Harry. What is your prediction for this game?
I think it'll be a close one, but I am going to say the home side to come through and make that home advantage count. Wolfsburg, I will say, to win the game by 1-0. I think it'll be a very close one. Juventus, as you say, they'll look to try and not concede, look to potentially sit off a little bit and take a draw back home next weekend. But I think Wolfsburg will just prove too strong in this game. I'll say 1-0 to the German side. I think it'll be Alexandra Pop in the second half, but I'm expecting a stalwart defensive performance on Juventus and an attacking display from Wolfsburg that potentially lacks a bit of clinicality, but I'm going to say Pop to make the difference. Again, I speak about experience, you speak about quality. Alexandra Pop has got that in abundance, so I think that she's the kind of player that could really separate these two sides. But overall, I think it'll be a close game. I just think Wolfsburg will edge it tonight.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say I think Juventus will be decent this evening, but I do think Wolfsburg will make it very difficult for them. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm sitting on the fence. I can't decide either way, so I'm going to say Wolfsburg 1, Juventus 1. I think Juventus will make it difficult for Wolfsburg, despite the fact Wolfsburg have that home advantage. I think, though, Wolfsburg will have the quality to find a goal. I just also think Juventus can get a goal and take a draw, a really important draw, back to their place. I'm going to say 1-0. I think it'll be a goal from Lynette Beerenstein for Wolfsburg, and I'm going to go for a goal from, I'll say, Girelli from the bench for Juventus. And I think a draw favours Juventus going into the second leg, but I do think they'll put off a good enough performance tonight to earn that result.
Yeah, I think that they've got the potential, and that will be the aim for them. For Juventus, it's not about winning the tie tonight. It's about keeping themselves in it and then making the difference next week. For Wolfsburg, they will want to make an impression. They'll want to stand out tonight, and if they can walk into that second leg with a 2-3 goal advantage, and suddenly they're absolutely on the money to get into the quarterfinals once again. For Juventus, it's new territory. I mean, it's a new round for all, but it's new territory for the side tonight. And if they can get through these two legs, imagine Juventus into the last 8 of the Champions League would be a massive achievement for them, and I think that's what they'll be looking to do. But as I say, that's not the aim tonight. Tonight is about keeping themselves in the game, providing a competitive challenge to Wolfsburg, making it difficult for a side that have had done great things in this competition, and just looking to see what they can do. And if Juventus walk off this pitch and they've managed to nick a win, or that it's a level game, then I think that they're in a great position to progress next week.
Indeed, Kate in the live chat going 3-1 Wolfsburg. Keep those predictions coming in as we move closer to kick-off. We will be getting underway incredibly shortly. The Wolfsburg stadium ready here. Both sets of players taking to the field here at the AOK Stadion. Wolfsburg keen to get back to where they deserve to be, where they should be, where they belong in the deep phases of the Champions League. Juventus looking to, represent Serie A Femminile on the European stage. We've not seen the Serie A clubs go very far in Champions League in recent history, and Juventus are looking to change that this season. A match-up in the quarter-finals with OL Lyonnes, I believe, is the one that awaits this side of the draw. It should be very difficult, but it's a stage that both these sides want to be playing on. It's Juventus who will get us started here. And we've got a handy countdown in the AOK Stadion, which counts down to 1, and we can get underway here as Juventus take on Wolfsburg. The ball knocked back, and Juventus get us underway in this Champions League knockout round playoff round game. And it's Wolfsburg pressing aggressively from the off as Juventus get a throw-in on the far side. Carbonell looking for an option, taking her time here. And does eventually find the throw in towards Capeta. He's knocked out a play for another Juventus throw, though, as Capeta can't quite get there. And throwing down the line from Carbonell. Touch back from Capeta into Vangsgaard. Tries to dribble away there through the opposition defence. One back well by Bielda. And Wolfsburg driving it forwards. Turned over well. And then hooked out of play by Yanina Minga.
Yeah, good start by Juventus, looking to be positive. And, winning the throw out the pitch. Didn't quite use it in the way they want to. And Vangsgaard probably trying to do a bit too much there in a crowded area. Wolfsburg, found that quite easy to turn it over and win the ball back.
Dijkstra flicking it forwards. Bielda there makes a bit of a meal of it. And Vangsgaard brought to the ground. And a free kick in a good area here for Juventus.
Yeah, again, that much better from Vangsgaard. Tried too much there a moment ago, but that time, decent bit of play, wins the free kick. And yeah, again, this is exactly what they'd have wanted. I spoke about Juventus wanted just to settle into the game and make sure that they weren't out of it, but they're a minute in here. They won themselves a free kick in a good position and immediately looking to put some pressure onto the Wolfsburg penalty area.
Yeah, Phoebe, welcome to the stream, going for a 2-1 Wolfsburg win. So chat at the moment favouring Wolfsburg. Can the home side deliver? Juventus with this free kick, deciding how best to threaten Wolfsburg from this situation. I believe it's Brighton who will take. There are a couple players over this. Estea Carbonell the other. Brighton runs over it. Carbonell delivers it in there. Headed away well by Dijkstra, who got up to it quickly. Pass back now towards Valti. Will go through to Lenzini. Keen to put it back into the area. Vangsgaard makes a mess of that header. Does pick up on the loose ball, though. Ball in towards the area. Cleared away. And Harvakan was looming in there. A strong aerial presence. But they couldn't quite pick her out. On the left-hand side now with Carbonell. Back into Abby Brighton. Didn't like her option there, crossing into the box. And Harvakan. Kuhlberg. Here's Brighton. Into Harvakan. He tries to play it through the lines. Capeta won't get there, though. One in midfield. Here's Yanina Minga. And now Bielda as Wolfsburg hold on to possession. Looking to be a bit more direct now. Great control from Lynette Beerenstein, who brings Huth into the equation. No support there for Huth, though, as Beerenstein went to ground after winning the ball. And Wolfsburg forced backwards.
Yeah, much more what we'll expect to see going forward in the 90 minutes. Wolfsburg on the ball. Juventus in a very solid shape and just making it difficult for the German side to try and play through them.
Bielda driving inside with the ball, forced backwards and almost ran herself into trouble there. Here is Wedemeyer. Looks out to the left-hand side, shifts it into Sarai Linda. Great pressure there from Barbara Bonansea. Trying to force back Linda. Linda now looking forwards once again. Back to Wedemeyer, though. And now Dijkstra. Options in front of her on the right-hand side. Thought she may go more direct there, but running out of room as the press was initiated by Capeta. Bielda back to her goalkeeper. Johannes now on the ball. And Wolfsburg can calmly play out once again. A lot of possession, but they're struggling at the moment, Wolfsburg. I know we're only 4 minutes in, but struggling to play through the Juventus press. Out to the left-hand side. Here's Enderman. Pass inside to Pedamors. Goes back to Linda. Down the line towards Enderman. Picked off by the fullback, or the centre-half, Lenzini. And it's sent forwards, and that will run through to the goalkeeper, Johannes.
Yeah, it's I like the mentality from Juventus. They're going to be solid, and it's almost a come and break us down message from Juventus. Wolfsburg, they're going to have to find a way through tonight.
There from Barbara Bonansea, who engaged at the right moment, can't keep it in play, and it will be a Juventus throw, though. And that's turned to be a Wolfsburg throw, I believe. No, it is Juventus throw. Refs sticking with their decision. Or back in the linesman, actually. I think the lineswoman gave that right and the ref got it the wrong way around. Minga's not happy. Which I have to say, I'm not sure what the lineswoman's given there.
Yeah, I was to say, I can understand Minga's complaints, but I say I took a heavy touch and kicked it off the pitch.
But yeah, Juventus, they're not engaging too high up the field. They're not pressing Wolfsburg super aggressively. But as soon as Wolfsburg get over a certain line, and as soon as they start to get towards the halfway line, that's when they engage Juventus.
Yeah.
And it's smart. I mean, if they try and press aggressively, not only is it going to leave space in behind for Beerenstein, which you don't want to do, because Beerenstein's going to win that foot race 9 times out of 10, and that is a corner now for Juventus. But it also means that you don't end up... if you press too aggressively, often teams can play through that, and they can spot the space a little more easily, but by delaying it a little bit, they're able to take their shape, Juventus, invite Wolfsburg in, and then pounce when they're not perhaps expecting it quite as much. Juventus now with this corner. It's also lower intensity for this Juventus side. Makes it easier to maintain for the full 90 minutes. Carbonell over this corner. Swung in towards the near post. Headed on to goal and it's there. And Juventus 6 minutes in take the lead in this Champions League game. They've been a real threat from set pieces throughout this tournament. And that is a really well-worked routine. It's Capeta who gets her first goal in the Women's Champions League. In her first appearance, delivered in by Carbonell, flicked on by Capeta. Johannes not strong enough to save that shot, and they can't quite claw it off the line. Wolfsburg 0, Juventus 1.
Dream start for Juventus. Really good ball in from Carbonell, and Capeta does exactly what she needs to do at that front post, holds her own up against Bielda, and gets it on target. Should Johannes do better? Absolutely. She'll be frustrated with that one. Got 2 hands to it, but way too weak. And the ball just goes through her palms. But what a start for Juventus. They've been positive, and they've caught Wolfsburg out there.
And that is not a bad introduction for Anna Capeta. First Champions League game, first game for Juventus. And she heads home in this Champions League playoff round fixture. And it's one back in there by Godot. Wolfsburg coming forwards, ball delivered in here by Sarai Linda, cleared away, Bielda hooks it back into the area, Pop tries to get there, but it's Bonansea who picks up on the ball. Now trying to drive it down the right-hand side and chooses a safe option there of poking it down the line.
Once again, though, VfL Wolfsburg not starting a game remotely quickly. How many times we've seen that in the Champions League this season? They have been slow to get going. And this is a difficult one. We spoke about how the home tie was very important. Falling behind early here was the opposite of what they'd have wanted from the early stages of this first leg. But they're going to have to dig in now. Juventus have come out and they've set the mark and said, we're going to come at you. We're going to make this difficult for you today.
Indeed. Foul here again as Juventus able just to gain some more ground. And I think Kanzi will be really happy with how this game is panning out at the moment. We questioned his decision to bring Anna Capeta into this game for her Juventus debut, bring her into a setup which has worked really well. It was a bold call, but it's absolutely paid off.
Yeah, 100%. And Kanzi looks like the most composed person.
Ball in behind here from Carbonell. Capeta's in again here. Can't quite fashion the opportunity for the shot. And Wolfsburg winning it back. And Capeta did go too quickly there. I thought she was in for her brace. And Juve were about to extend their advantage.
Yeah, I was surprised that she didn't manage to collect it together. She was offside, so it wouldn't have mattered in the end. But as the ball came through here, she just couldn't seem to latch onto it in the way she wanted to. But what a start to life in a black and white shirt for Capeta. just looks really lively. It's exactly why they brought her in.
Well, they want that threat in behind tonight. Capeto's going to give that, as will Amelie Vangsgaard. And while we know Cristiana Girelli's a fantastic player, that's not the kind of role where she is suited to. Now, Chiara Beccari probably also another player who could have done that role, but yeah, Capeta absolutely vindicated. Not Stefan Lurch, Massimiliano Canzi vindicated in that decision to start her tonight. Wolfsburg coming forwards, Brighton giving the ball away. Beerenstein touches it on to Huth. Fantastic footwork, takes aim. And that a rogue shot. Should have done better from that position. Well wide of the mark.
Yeah, really good run. Turn the ball out the pitch. It's Beerenstein working hard in there. And did well to turn it over.
And it was Enderman actually on the right-hand side. They just swapped momentarily. Couldn't quite get her feet in the right direction. Just go back to the left-hand side now. So, to be fair, that was a weaker foot. I would have expected, I think if Svenja Hoop was in that position, we'd probably be looking at the game being level. And that is a bit of a warning klaxon to Juventus. Ball out towards the left-hand side. One in midfield now by Brighton. Carbonell does well to hold on to that ball. Vangsgaard drops in to receive. Enable there to win a throw-in.
Exactly what they've got to do now, Juventus. Just keep hold of the ball, be aggressive, make things difficult for Wolfsburg, and try and take the pace out of the game.
It's fascinating to see how similar this Juventus setup is to what Italy used at the Euros. In terms of it's a 3-back when they don't have the ball, a 3 or 5-back. But what we're seeing is Bonansea pushing high and Vangsgaard pulling wide, operating as the wingers, and it's more of a 4-back in possession. And then Carbonell able to get forwards, and they move to something of a 3-3-4. Here's Bonansea. And Linda here trying to press her off, but Bonansea does brilliantly, still driving it forwards, touches it to Lenzini, who delivers it with venom into the box. Here's Carbonell now. Finds Valti on the edge. No forward pass there for Leo Valti. Vangsgaard pokes it through the lines. Carbonell delivers it into the area. Back post for Bonansea. Dealt with well by Sarai Linda. Brighton putting the pressure on, but Pop squeezes it into Enderman. Pedamors to Linda. Where to go here for Sarai Linda, who will be forced backwards. And now Dijkstra on the ball on the right-hand side. Looking for the right-back Bielda. Back across to Dijkstra. On to Wedemeyer. Now looking to be direct and go in behind, but that's poorly hit by Wedemeyer.
Yeah, again, Wolfsburg just struggling to find a way through. Another good move from Juventus before that, but yeah, the home side haven't really got into this one yet. They just can't seem to get the ball down and play what they want to. They're being stifled brilliantly by Juventus at the moment. Even the breakaway we saw a moment ago where Pedamors picks it up, lays it into Linda, and she's forced backwards because there's nowhere to go.
Ball sent long. Bounces around in midfield. One back in there by Kuhlberg. And now Capeta, who draws the foul, and that will be a free kick for Juventus. Drawing frustration there from Janina Minga and the Wolfsburg team.
Yeah, again, really good work from Capeta. There's not much in it, but she feels the contact, falls to the floor, and wins the free kick. But yeah, Wolfsburg, I don't see them being able to, unless there's a Juventus error, I don't see them being able to play through the Italian side at the moment. It just feels the best chances or the best kind of sniffs that Wolfsburg have had is when Juventus are playing around with it in their own third, and and then Wolfsburg can turn it over half the pitch.
Bielda, now Dijkstra, wide into Huth, tries to poke it through a player there, it doesn't come off. And Leah Valti now into Brighton. Back home to her goalkeeper. Poked out to the right-hand side. Lenzini down the line to Bonansea. Back towards Lenzini. Picked off by Enderman, who can find Beerenstein. Touch back towards the winger. Kuhlberg on hand to smash that one away.
Yeah, not sure what Bonansea is trying to do there. But again, it's what I was speaking about a moment ago. Wolfsburg turn the ball over half the pitch and try and link up nicely. Big interception, though.
Down the line, and that's really poor. Just couldn't quite get a foot on the ball there, Enderman, as it just bounced under a foot. Praveen makes a good point, saying Wolfsburg lack match sharpness, having played just once since the 21st of December. Yeah, that's not ideal. They played on the 2nd of February. They were supposed to have a game last weekend that was postponed. But yeah, that long winter break perhaps not helping Wolfsburg with this earlier Champions League knockout round than they usually, or they used to be. You'd imagine that the Frauen Bundesliga will reconsider that scheduling with this tournament happening slightly earlier now, potentially. Hoof in towards the area. That's brilliant from De Jong. Just dipped onto the top of the goalkeeper, who was able to push it away. Now Bonansea can't quite poke it past Janina Minga, who wins it back and keeps it in well. Linda. Too slow there to react, unable to find the forward pass. Minga. Wedemeyer. Cross now to Dijkstra. Who goes wide to Bielda. Drives inside and back to Wedemeyer. Here's Dijkstra. Nowhere to go. So it goes back to Wedemeyer. Linda down the line, looking for Enderman, wants to take on Harviken, who stands her up initially quite well. Now looks to take one across goal, and that shot wide of the mark. And Enderman looking lively, but unable yet to test De Jong.
Yeah, again, really sharp from Enderman. Lovely feet. Koolberg did want to stand her up, but it was a decent shift of the feet from Enderman, but the shot's just lacking. Needs a bit more, just a bit of composure in those kind of areas. She was just looking to curl it into the far corner and end up driving a bit too much power on it, too straight and wide of the mark.
Yeah, not able, as you say, to wrap her foot around that and test the Juventus goalkeeper De Jong. Here is Minga. Back to Wedemeyer. Now Dijkstra. Minga. Dijkstra again. Across into Wedemeyer. Goes down the line to Linda. Back to Wedemeyer. Plays it into midfield with Janina Minga. And now can open up and look down the right-hand side. Wolfsburg. Huth drops in to receive. Plays it down the line. Headed away well by Estea Carvanel. Vangsgaard. Ball clipped forwards. Cut out by Dijkstra. And that's out for a Wolfsburg throw-in. Erland, welcome to the stream. Says, do you still believe in Wolfsburg for this game? I think they can absolutely turn this around. But I think it makes life much easier for Juventus now that have set up with the idea of not conceding this evening. An early goal gives them even more to hold on to. And with the second leg being a home game for Juventus, they'll be keen just to get this game done now at 1-0, kill this game off as quickly as possible, and get to their home leg where they'll have a huge advantage. Lenzini a little too aggressive in our attempt to win back the ball there. Wanted to be front-footed, but that was over the line from Lenzini.
Yeah, just a very aggressive tackle. One of those where she didn't really catch anyone, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but not the way you should be diving into tackles. But yeah, Wolfsburg is one of those where I think they've got the ability to definitely level this up, but with how solid Juventus have been defensively in the first 17 minutes, unless there's an error at the back, I don't see Wolfsburg, scoring more than...
In towards Beerenstein there. Thought that was dangerous, but unable to latch onto the pass.
But yeah, and again, it's another example there as to why I don't see Wolfsburg scoring more than 1-2 tonight if they are to try and turn it around, just because they haven't really been able to get Beerenstein into the game.
Yeah. Pedamors into Linda, goes down the line to Enderman, holds it up brilliantly. Now Pedamors. Wide into Bielda. You can carry this forward. Decent delivery, pop. Gets ahead to it, can't get the direction. Koolberg steers it clear, not far away enough, and that's fantastic from Lenzini. Not sure if Enderman even touched her, but Lenzini getting back in there and drawing the foul for good measure. Oh, yes, one I said. There was contact, to be fair. Smart stuff there from the captain.
Yeah, Enderman just gets there second, but I think she gets her second because it was a half-hearted attempt, really. I think she always knew that Bianconere was going to get there first, just the way that he kind of half-heartedly lifted her leg towards the ball. Just lacking a bit of conviction, I think, across the board. Wolfsburg are just that, that cutting edge is lacking at the moment, which is exactly what you expect from a side that haven't played, much at all in the last couple of months.
Yeah, indeed. Tagiev predicting 2-0 Juventus, and King Cheki, welcome to the stream, welcome from Botswana, saying expecting a VfL to win 3-1. Could Wolfsburg pull off that sort of comeback? They've got a long way to go. Dijkstra now into Svenja Huth, and Capeta getting in front of it, knocking it out of play. And Bielda is down here. I think just got caught in that tussle with Amelie Vangsgaard. A bit of an unfortunate one. Vangsgaard elbow is at the same height as Bielda's head.
Yeah.
Which, Bielda's come off worse on.
Yeah, but Bielda's had a tough first, 20 or so minutes in this one. I think that, of course, she's up against it a little bit. But, yeah, there's been a lot of... It's been one of those where I think she's doing well, but is getting... Because Vangsgaard's drifting out to that left-hand side, I think that Amelie Vangsgaard's just got that physical edge over Bielda at the moment. I think that the Wolfsburg fullback is just struggling to compete, and contest with someone like Vangsgaard.
Yeah, I wonder how much Stefan Lerch wished he had Levels available for selection tonight. It was absolutely crucial for them, really important for them in the league phase. Big player for Wolfsburg in general, missing from tonight's game. Ben Cries, welcome to the stream, says Wolfsburg always start slow, just need to settle, and then you'll see the cutting-edge nature of that front four. Having Bussy on the bench as well for firepower could be crucial to seal the deal. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, it's an interesting decision to play Enderman over Bussy, and Enderman's had a few opportunities now where he's just lashed at them a little bit. Very talented young player, but lacking the composure, really. Vivian Enderman in these early stages.
Yeah, I think that she's looked lively though, which is something for Wolfsburg. I do agree that they do start slow. I think we've seen it in quite a few Champions League games. That the PSG one in Match Week 1, they weren't, again, Volerenia as well wasn't there were passages of that where they didn't just get off on the right foot, and I think that they won't be happy with the way this game started, but they'll back themselves to get going, and once they're in gear, 100% that front four looks so deadly on paper, and Huth hasn't really got in the game, neither's Pop, neither's Beerenstein. So you start getting those players on the ball and they can definitely make things happen.
Yeah, here's Wedemeyer. Now Linda. Back to Wedemeyer. Minge. Wedemeyer. Wide now to Sarai Linda. Back to Wedemeyer. And Wolfsburg just down a player for the moment. Bielda is now back into the fray though. And now picks up on that pass. Inside into Alexandra Pop, who's tried to play a glory ball. Hasn't quite come off. Drops in midfield now for Abby Brighton. He's made a bit of a mess of that. And Enderman comes away with possession. It's a 3-on-2 in favour of Wolfsburg. Charging forwards here with numbers. Enderman going inside and out. Plays it to Beerenstein. Can she get a shot away? Not able there to get one past Kullberg. And again there, the indecision from Enderman catching her out.
Yeah. Got to use chances like that. I spoke about when Juventus make errors, Wolfsburg have got to pounce, and Brighton just gets caught out. And again, it's brilliant. It's bright from Enderman, picks up on the ball. The initial drive was good, but once she gets that decision point, she doesn't know which way to go. I think in her head, she always wanted to go right, but the option then wasn't on, and she didn't really know what to do. Worked it to Beerenstein, but by the time it got there, Beerenstein was under pressure and was never be able to get a meaningful shot away.
And Capeta dragged down there by Alexandra Pop. Advantage played though. As Valti getting on the ball, taking it to the left-hand side. Here's Godo. Hitting that forward pass and not able to find it. It's out now for a Wolfsburg throw.
But they're the most threatening chances that the Wolfsburg will get tonight. Juventus, when they're sat deep and they're in the structure, it's really difficult to find a way through. But when you can catch them high up the pitch, when you can turn the ball over and outnumber them, there's a 3-on-3 there. But when you get into those situations, Wolfsburg will back themselves with the quality in that front line to make the difference. But yeah, that was a wasted chance.
Indeed. Wedemeyer. Now into Dijkstra. Wedemeyer Plays it through the lines. Pop touches it well. Brighton wins it back though, and think Pop a little fortunate to win a free kick there.
Yeah, again, it was a aggressive from Brighton, but I'm not too sure there was much wrong with it. We'll have another look here.
She gets the ball for me.
Yeah, she might get a bit of Pop, but even then, I don't think it's anything cynical.
Free kick then for Wolfsburg. Can they take advantage of this? Getting smart stuff from Alexandra Pop. Knows how to play the referees at this point in her career. And Wolfsburg with a free kick now. Bielda runs over it. Huth looping it in there, and that's headed away. Wedemeyer tries to keep it alive. And Pedamore's giving it away. And that's brilliant from Valti there to just drive her way through the Wolfsburg team. And Carbonell shifting it to the right-hand side. Bonansea lets it go. Capeta now swings it in towards the back post. Not a bad delivery. No one able to meet it though, and it'll bounce through. And out for a goal kick for Wolfsburg.
Yeah, again, a good move. Capeta will be frustrated. There's no one to get on the end of that. I thought that the way, because she'd made it so obvious she was going to cross the ball, Wolfsburg backed off her, and I thought that if she'd just paid attention a bit there, she could have carried on driving.
Yeah.
It would have caught Wolfsburg out because they sat 5-10 yards off her because she almost stopped the ball dead as if it was a set piece rather than an open play cross. But yeah, just wasn't quite what she was looking for. You want that the other way around. You want Capeta in the middle and Bonansea on the touchline crossing the ball in. Yeah,
especially as I think Barbara Bonansea in that position has the sort of the ability to read the game and I think carries that ball a little bit further, realises there's not the options in the box, there's not really any pressure on her. I think could have carried that. Poor here from Kullberg. Enderman looking to capitalise. Can she get the shot away? It's blocked by Kullberg and into the hands of De Jong. And Enderman picking up there on a defensive mistake, but Wolfsburg unable to capitalise.
Yeah, again, a couple of errors are starting to creep in for Juventus in those defensive areas. Kullberg this time the one who gives it away, but Enderman's got to do better there. Got to make more of it.
Lenzini plays it forward. Here's Godo. Can carry the ball forwards here. Able to take it past Wedemeyer. Bonansea trying to just squeeze it through the lines again there. It's cleared away. Astea Carbonell with a positive touch. Swings the ball in there. It's going to fall for Capeta. Swings at it and stops the ball dead. Here's Brighton. Gears up for the shot. Blocked well. And it's going to be Alexandra Pop who comes away with possession. Knocks it in behind. Great ball into Beerenstein. She's isolated up here though. What can Beerenstein do? Comes inside. Can she get the shot away? Blocked well. Charged down by Kullberg. And now in the possession of Lenzini. Ben Kreiser says, Wolfsburg a lot of the ball, but not winning enough duels in midfield when the ball is in contention. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult against Juventus. Juventus play with a lot of intensity. They've got a midfield in there that has got a lot of energy. We've seen that with how they've lined up. We expected, I mean, they've gone more for more recently, they've been going for Schatzer in there, who dictates the game really well. But I think with what they've done tonight with Brighton and with Godo, you get a lot of energy. And matching that energy and matching that intensity can be very difficult. And yeah, Wolfsburg have really struggled to do that so far. I think especially when you've got Pop in there, who's a fantastic player, but it doesn't necessarily have the same defensive work rate or ball retention ability. Obviously, Pedamore's and Minga's a fantastic combination, but they are just seemingly outnumbered in there, especially with Capeta dropping a little bit deeper at times, and Juventus able to form a bit of a midfield four almost. Beerenstein latching on that ball over the top, unable though to keep it under her control. Ben Kreiser also says, what do you think of the fact that Wolfsburg have had 2 postponed games recently? Do you think this will mess with their performance just through messing with their schedule? Well, it will lower their sharpness, of course, but every cloud has a silver lining because they're also probably a bit fresher than Juventus, who have had a run of Serie A games coming into this match. So it goes both ways, really. But because, for Juventus, for example, have played Saturday, Sunday, a week apart. But before that, they played Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Sunday, which is, that's a quite intense schedule with the cup games and the league games in there as well. So, yeah, it goes both ways. I do think Wolfsburg are at a disadvantage, though, the fact they haven't played much recently. I think that's what we're seeing so far. Well, Juventus do just look a bit sharper.
It's one of those where in the modern day, Usually it's quite nice to have a break at some point, but with the winter break and then having postponed games, it's been a run too long for Wolfsburg without any football.
Yeah. Dijkstra. Bielda. Inside to Janina Minga. Now Pedamors. Knocks it wide. And Linda down the line, into Enderman, back towards Linda, knocked further down the line. Enderman will bust a gut to get there, but Kuhlberg knocking it out of play well. Probably could try to see that out there, Kuhlberg. I think just choosing the safer option.
Yeah, just getting rid of it, not allowing any chance of Enderman getting on the end of it. But they're growing into the game, Wolfsburg, you feel.
Indeed, Pedamors. Into Bielda. Huth. Bielda. Able to get away from the challenge. Dangerous ball across the box. And I think Berenstein's got to get there.
Yeah, has to. Really good from Bielda. Lovely give and go with Huth. Then she just bursts into the penalty area. The ball in is good. And yeah, Berenstein got to throw herself at that. It's a really good ball in from Bielda. Right where you'd want it. Any number 9 in the world would be licking their lips at that. But Berenstein just doesn't react, isn't sharp enough. Got to be on her toes in that situation. As I say, it's the kind of one you've got to stretch your leg out, because if you get anything on it, you're going to beat the keeper from there.
I think she's got to throw herself at that for me. Juventus coming forwards once again. Held up well by Capeta. Dijkstra. Now Huth. Driving it forwards. Touched on to Berenstein, who plays it inside. Enderman tries to get there. Strong goalkeeping. I think there may have been either an offside call or a foul there on the keeper.
Yes, Berenstein went early.
Go too early. That's incredibly tight, but I think just. And good goalkeeping regardless from De Jong, who pounced on it. Juventus able to deal with that Wolfsburg attack, but half an hour in and Wolfsburg are clicking into gear.
Yeah, they're motoring. Sven Yehuf's getting on the football, which makes a massive difference in these kind of games. A quality player who's starting to really have an impact.
Yeah, foul there on Pop as she's dragged down by Godo. And Wolfsburg now with a free kick. And Juventus just struggling to play out, really. Struggling to get out of their own half at the moment. Dijkstra. Short into Pedamors. Looks out to the right-hand side. Nothing on. Goes back into Dijkstra. And now it's with Wedemeyer. Carries it forward. Knocks it wide now into Linda. You can play it down the line. Enderman will work hard to get there. Cleared away by Kuhlberg again. Linda with the throw-in. Inside to Enderman. Darts inside dangerously. Now to Huth, who just gets that one wrong. If not, Linda was in. She continued her run there from fullback, and Godo pushed down there by Sven Huth.
Yeah, again, right idea from Huth to just try and reverse it round the corner into the run of Linda, but just couldn't put it off. And again, you just feel that Wolfsburg are that final ball away from creating a clear-cut opportunity in this game.
It's a good holder. Robbed the possession, though. And the pass down the line. Unsuccessful as well. Linda able to go back now to her goalkeeper, Johannes, and Wolfsburg can settle on the ball. Minga splitting the centre halves. Into Dijkstra. Minga again. Now Wedemeyer. Dijkstra. Wedemeyer carries it forward on the left-hand side. That forward pass, though, is intercepted. And now Pedamors. Across to Janina Minga. Good control from Svenja Huth. And she's brought down there. And that will be a free kick for Wolfsburg.
Yeah, again, good use of experience there from Svenja Huth. Just holds the ball up, realises that she's in a difficult position. She's not really going to go anywhere with it. So just waits for the contact from Harviken. And wins the free kick. And an opportunity now for Wolfsburg to put the ball into the box and try and cause some problems for Juventus, who will be eyeing up that half-time whistle because this game is starting to slip away from them a little bit. Still got the lead though, and that's what matters.
Huth in towards the area, headed away. Not dealt with there by Juventus, and it's cleared then. Out to the right-hand side. Nigel, welcome to the stream. Says, pleasantly surprised Juve's winning. Figured Wolfsburg had this in the bag. I mean, I always thought Juventus were going to give a good battle. I get that obviously Wolfsburg have that history, have the quality in this team, but Juventus were so good in the league phase.
Yeah.
I think this is a performance that we should have seen coming. Well, I think, makes sense.
Yeah, I thought they played well. I think Wolfsburg being at home, especially, would have swung it. Would have swung it in my favour, but sort of for me, would have swung it in their favour. But yes, Juventus have got the ascendancy at the moment. Although that could change very quickly. Again, Huth would have liked to do better with that one, but just runs it out of play and concedes the goal kick. She felt it should have been a corner. We'll get a good angle here. Yeah, rightfully frustrated. That does come off Bianconere last, but again, a good use of experience there from Bianconere to win her side the goal kick, and it just relieves that pressure. And now they'll be eyeing it up 10 minutes until half time. And if Juventus can get into the interval at 1-0 up, then they'll be in good stead to kick on into the second half.
Yeah, indeed. Throw in as this was launched by De Jong into Wolfsburg's possession. Wedemeyer. Now Sarah Linda. Goes down the line. Enderman forced backwards. And it's Dijkstra. On the ball. Tries to play it through the lines. And Vangsgaard jumps in front of it. Now fall back into the possession of Wedemeyer. Linda. Back towards Wedemeyer. Dijkstra. Into Bielda. Playing it over the top. It'll bounce through. Looking for Lynette Bierenstein, who cuts it back now. And Lenzini clearing it away well. And removing the threat from that situation. Nice move, though, from Wolfsburg.
Yeah, again, they're starting to get the ball down now. There's a bit of pace to their play. Really starting to trouble Juventus, who are dealing with the threat at the moment. But you feel that soon Wolfsburg are going to start getting some shots away.
Juventus, though, look like a side who are up for this. They look like a side who